This is So In Flow, a podcast to help you activate the power of creative flow in every part of your life, business, and of course, creative process to make your creative dreams reality. This podcast is produced in collaboration with Seahorse Bookstore, the independent bookstore with a mission to awaken the imagination. Order your books and stream your audiobooks through Seahorse. Hey, this is Molly Murray. Welcome to So In Flow. Hi there, I'm Molly Murray. I'm a creative flow coach, an energy healer, and a rapid transformational therapy practitioner. I'm also a proudly neurodiverse writer, and I own Seahorse Bookstore in Scotland.
Hello, So In Flow. I am so thrilled to introduce our guest this morning. This is Vicki Rogers. She is a great big part of my life as she is just such a spiritual leader in our area. And she leads the most gorgeous yoga classes and retreats and wild swimming sessions that I love to go to. So that's how I became introduced to Vicki Rogers. And now let me tell you a little bit more about her. Vicki is a professional social worker who discovered the beautiful power of well-being practices in pursuit of finding a more peaceful flow in a busy, stressful life. This led to the inception of her business, Kind Yoga and Wellbeing, where she shares various disciplines of yoga, sound healing, and reiki in her own holistic and unique style, whilst also drawing upon social work and coaching-based principles. Vicki built her own toolkit of strategies to support and manage overwhelm, stress, and anxiety, which includes writing, poetry, and cold water therapy. Vicki first dipped her toes into the salty waters of the Ayrshire Coast with a friend. She became hooked and began leading pre-dip sessions with a local club. This involved guiding women of all communities and backgrounds through breathwork, meditation, and yoga before bracing the cold water. Vicki found this practice and connection wholly healing, empowering, and a key part of finding her flow. How wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us today, Vicki.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here. I always enjoy and sharing with your beautiful energy and creations. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. I know I always feel this buzz around Vicki. I hope you can all feel it too. She's just such a beautiful, radiant soul. And now I'm going to read you a card that I pulled before we got on that says so much about both of our individual journeys. And also we hope the journey that you'll take listening to this podcast. I found it very telling. So the card is called Beneath the Surface. It's from the gorgeous Healing Waters Oracle by Rebecca Campbell. I just adore Rebecca Campbell and her work. And so this is a new deck that she put out, which of course drew me in because it's all about water. Often the things that we think we want are not what we really want deep down. Sometimes we go after them because the world has told us that we should do certain things or be a certain way, and we don't realize there's a choice. Sometimes we're driven by the need to keep up, be approved of, or fit in. Sometimes we do things just because we've always done them, and we can't even see out of the box that's containing us. Sometimes what we're chasing is really chasing us. So what is it that you truly want? And why do you want what you truly want? Be honest about it. What are you chasing that's holding you captive? Are you being called to break free of the box that's containing you? What's beneath the surface of what you currently see? What are your true motives deep down? Are you expending energy on things that aren't true inner yearnings? What's really driving your behavior and your desires? It's time to move from confusion to clarity, to question the narrative, realign yourself, and reclaim your life. To open your mind to what it is that you really, truly desire, and then reorient yourself toward it. It's safe to change your mind, to step out of the box, to choose a different way of being. Look beneath the surface of your day-to-day life and reflect on what's really driving you and what you really, truly want. Freedom always follows, and so does ease and fulfillment. Oh, what a beautiful card. Vicki, thank you so much for being here again. I would just love to ask you a bit about who you are, and could you tell us about your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much again. And what a wonderful, perfect card, I think, for just, I suppose, personally, sharing a bit about my journey, just where getting below the surface, and a lot of these practices sort of helping me to guide to that real inner sort of authentic being. So yeah, who am I? So I suppose I'm a host of labels, a partner, friend, daughter, sister, social worker, as you said, and yoga and wellbeing guide. So yeah, lots of things to different people. But ultimately, what I am, I think, is a connector, and I feel that that's my dharma, that's my purpose in this earth, is to be here and sort of connect with others with kindness, with love, and create spaces where we can all just sort of be creative together and try to be as authentic as we can and just living in flow. So yeah, lots of things, but underneath all of those sort of roles, feeling that that's my absolute purpose in life.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And could you tell us a bit about your story? Like, what brought you to this point?
Yeah. So what brought me to this point? So yeah, growing up, I've always been so thankful to my mum actually for encouraging creativity as a child. So I've always been interested in sort of drawing, poetry, story writing, storytelling, creative play, and that's something that's always been really sort of nurtured throughout my childhood. But typically as well, just growing up, experiencing sort of family life, your own sort of losses, separations, traumas, sort of stepping into the adult world, and I suppose being conditioned in a way to who you're meant to be. Um, and part of that, I suppose, led me to my career in social work, which I now absolutely love, that I have the right toolkit in terms of being able to manage the level of sort of stress and busyness that comes along with that. But a lot of my journey laterally has been about stepping into my true authentic self and learning to live in flow. And a lot of that included a lot of these practices such as yoga and sound healing and the wild swimming, cold water therapy, getting out in nature, connecting with others, and being able to sort of unmask and unlayer to then step into being more in flow with myself and with the world around me.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Could you tell us any ups or downs that you've had in your life and how creativity and flow have helped you to navigate them?
Certainly. And actually, I think challenges in life actually become one of our biggest inspirations as well. I've certainly found through some of the most challenging points in my life are the most creative. I've maybe got more to express within the poetry that I write, or it takes you to places where you can experience that sort of multifaceted emotion, feelings, and real sort of deep lessons. um, so I think, yeah, some of the main challenges for me in life is about not feeling enough, probably, coming to a place of sort of people pleasing, stepping into roles probably that I haven't wanted to necessarily do, subconsciously though. Um, yeah, and just feeling not enough a lot of times. And I think, working with creativity and really sort of harnessing that through the various activities that we're talking about has led to me sort of being more confident to be able just to step into life in a way that I want to be, or to say no to certain things that I don't want to do. And just using creativity in various modes as a tool to get to know myself first and foremost, actually. So that expression through writing, or the the creativity of preparing a yoga class that you know you're going to share with other people, thinking about, you know, what's going on in my life right now, that I can sort of convey those themes within that class and take people on a journey, and hoping that you're sort of sharing what's going on for you with them, and hoping that it's going to touch a certain person along the way in terms of those lessons. So I think there's been various challenges at different points in my life, sort of like family breakdown when I was younger, sort of into adulthood, as I say, just that juggling life and feeling stressed, overwhelmed, sitting with anxiety, not knowing where that's came from, sort of breakdown of relationships. So there's been lots of times where you've reached sort of really pivotal, difficult times in your life, that actually coming back to these practices where you can just step away from all of that for a moment. And I think that's where sort of the cold water therapy has been a real sort of balm for my soul over the last few years, in terms of just being able to stop and breathe, and stop all of those maybe busy thoughts floating around your mind when you feel in that place of overwhelm or anxiety or stress. So for me, stepping into the water, and particularly, it's like you can't be anywhere else other than physically in your body in that moment, and focusing on your breath. Your mind stills, you know, your brain becomes quiet, the world, the noise of the world becomes quiet. And I think for me, especially when you're outdoors at the beach, for example, for me, it's a really spiritual experience. You step into that water, the thoughts fade away, the mind quietens, it soothes the soul. When I just look at that line of the horizon, so the place where the sea meets the sky, and just breathe into that, and there's just, you're nowhere else but there for that moment in time. And then coming out, taking all of those benefits with you. I think for me, the challenges of life can be so hard and overwhelming, as we all know. And it's important to be able to have practices to get a bit of break from them, or something that just makes us stop, like I've described there. But then taking those benefits with you when you come out of the water. And I just think stepping into the icy cold water, especially here at the shores of Ayrshire, especially in the winter, just builds so much resilience. I think, you know, you come out of there knowing that you have the absolute strength and power to deal then with anything that comes your way. So yeah, I think it just helps build so much strength, resilience, and confidence, that actually, in terms of any of those challenges in your life, you feel more equipped perhaps to deal with them.
Wow, there are so many gorgeous points to touch in that flow of speech, Vicki. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to say, I grew up in the South in Louisiana, and when we went to the beach, we would go to Florida, and it was warm, sunny, balmy. The sand was really soft. It was
Yeah.
a very tropical experience. And so I'm putting this in for our listeners who don't know. We live on the southern coast of Scotland. I think it's the North Sea here. I know if you go up north, that it is the North Sea. So yes, we are in the North Sea, and going out, it's absolutely Arctic or Baltic, as they say here. You really are stepping into the elements, and you feel it is a profoundly spiritual experience, because when you step into that water, you know that you are releasing a control in a way that we don't usually do it in normal life, because you're at the mercy of the elements and you are one with nature. It's just such a profoundly beautiful, spiritual, moving experience. And you have to surrender control and take on a power and a bravery that at first you think is maybe not your own, but you realize you are tapping into that higher power. And it is profound, let me tell you. And if you ever have a chance to do this, I highly recommend it, because
that's such I think that's so key about that sort of surrender, because in life, when we feel out of control or things are so busy, we try to cling on to control, to power, to things that we can manage. And that was very much my experience in terms of like micromanaging my life, you know, like diaries, planners, like having every inch of the day planned, because it was about trying to control so that I would feel less anxiety. But probably the more I did that, the more anxiety I then experienced. So it's been a real lesson in surrender, as well, which is an absolutely beautiful a beautiful point. And thank you for sharing about your sort of initial experiences. I bet you it was such a change or a shock coming in and dipping in the seas in Scotland then as well.
It was, well, first we moved to Montana, so we'd go to the beach in on the Oregon coast or Washington coast, and that was the first shock, because it's you could go in, but it feels hypothermic. There's a risk of great white sharks. There's it was not an it feels deep and wild immediately. It was not an
Yeah.
easy, friendly beach, but it is that profound experience of like, here we are communing with nature. Just one with this beach, and it is that surrender of control. You're so right about power. We try to take power by these little things, when actually power comes from surrender. And that's when we truly stand in our power and claim who we are, because there's nothing more powerful than feeling, I have done this, I can do it again.
Yeah. And I think for me, my journey to sort of wild swimming, cold water therapy really started back in 2020 during lockdown, where I think there was a collective feeling of powerlessness in terms of just what was going on in the world at that time. Everyone was isolated, we weren't connected in the same way, just because of lockdown and things. So for me, it was a real lifeline during that time. I mean, I knew nothing about it, just knew other people, you know, around me were trying it out, had seen local groups sort of advertising that they were, you know, getting together in the beach, because it was like the only thing you were allowed to do. So me and a friend decided to give it a go, and was just immediately hooked to, I suppose, the exhilaration and you know, those feelings that that it caused. And it was nice, you know, it was an excuse to be able to meet up with someone in the beach, socially distant, safe, whilst getting in the water. And lockdown probably was quite a pivotal time for me, as it was for many people, in terms of just actually being gifted that time to dive deep into your own inner world. And for me, I sort of stopped using alcohol around that time as well, really started prioritizing myself, my wellbeing practices, my spirituality. And then the cold water therapy just became such a key part of that. You know, that I was going most days in terms of just really managing those lifestyle changes and, as I say, sort of anxiety and overwhelm. So yeah, and I've you know, just continued it since then. And if I can't get to the beach, doing sort of cold showers. Had a lovely cold shower this morning. Not as enjoyable because you don't have the beautiful nature around you to really immerse yourself in. But it's one of those things now that's like a non-negotiable in terms of my well-being.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Love it so much. There's, again, just so many beautiful threads we could follow in this. One of the things that I love that you said is that it was that collective powerlessness that we all became aware of. That's because that's when I became drawn to cold water swimming as well, and so many others. And I think that's why we have such a huge outreach, or such a huge interest in more spiritual methods of adding spirituality into your life now. It's just so beautiful. Now, you've shared recently on social media about your journey to become alcohol free. Would you feel good sharing that here? I would love to ask you about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me, probably unconsciously, alcohol became such a big part of my life. I think we live in a culture here where it's just so widely accepted. The majority of our sort of community here, you know, we drink alcohol to celebrate, to commiserate, after a long day's work, to relax. And for me, that just very much, I think, became part of my conditioning sort of growing up, that, you know, alcohol was just something that was there that you used. I remember big family parties back in the day, and I'm sure lots of people are the same, where, all the adults around you are using alcohol, and it all looks quite fun and glamorized, and you think, oh, I can't wait to get older to have a little drink as well. So I would say I started drinking probably sort of in my early teen years. And then I had a period in my teens that was quite chaotic, sort of just out with friends most weekends, sometimes not sort of coming home, using alcohol, partying. But again, all the people around me were doing that. So for me, it was just normalized. Um, I then continued to drink into my 20s and 30s, initially on a sort of social basis, or what I would think was a social basis, but probably when I look at it now in retrospect was kind of binge drinking, really drinking heavily most weekends, probably like most of the world, then struggling sort of Monday, Tuesday, feeling a bit hungover, and then sort of looking forward to the weekend again. Over time, that sort of increased just to having a few drinks during the week with dinner, just feeling quite social. That's what you do. It sort of helped ease tension after a busy day. But what I suppose I didn't realise initially, that that increase in alcohol use probably correlated with my increase in anxiety and overwhelm, and probably not feeling that great within myself. It then became sort of apparent that I was using alcohol maybe as a means of sort of coping, masking, numbing. So looking forward to coming in and, having a glass of wine or two or three at night after a stressful day at work. So I think the correlation between me having quite a stressful job and probably not that toolkit of strategies that you mentioned in terms of being able to manage maybe some of that sort of secondary trauma that you collect within social work, or just, the weight of some of those situations that you come across or decisions that you have to make. And that kind of becoming quite caught up with one another, and me not having the awareness to recognise that. I would say into the initial stages of lockdown, my alcohol use increased quite considerably, as a lot of people's did. But it really then also was the pivotal point to say, I can't continue to live like this. I don't feel good in myself. I feel sad a lot, like looking outwardly at my life, it's good. There's no reasons to be feeling sad, overwhelmed, stressed. And it was at that point that I thought, I need to look at the things that I'm doing in my life, and alcohol just being one of them, but like, work, alcohol, relationships, how I manage stress, the activities that I was doing, the inner dialogue, the things that I was telling myself. So I thought it got to the point that I knew I couldn't go on feeling the way that I did. And I had the power to change that. Nothing else was going to change that, but me. So it was really about reaching a point where I started to sort of unlayer, almost like the onion, looking at the onion and taking the layers off to say, what is it that's contributing to my overall well-being just now? What stays and what goes, and how do I sort of rebuild some of that? And then that was the decision to sort of remove alcohol from my life, which initially was quite challenging, but supported by the cold water therapy, the wild swimming, using my journaling, my poetry, my yoga, my meditation, all of those sort of tools that I would say I have in my personal toolkit. And we all need different things in our own personal toolkits for how we stay well. And then just beginning to see the benefits of that, having more time because you're not sleeping as much, or feeling clearer in your thinking, in your mind, in your soul, in your body, and then just being sort of inspired to continue on that journey. And I suppose it's important to note, which I've said in my recent sort of sharing in social media about that journey, is that, there had been sort of blips, relapses along the way. So progress, again, isn't necessarily linear. And I think that's so important for people to know. And actually, sometimes these blips, relapses, however you would want to frame that, are lessons in themselves. And it's like sort of reinforcing something that you need to know, or reinforcing that lesson. So for me, it was a reminder that when I started using alcohol again sort of last summer. Again, my mood started to dip, my anxiety started to creep back in. But quite quickly now, having the awareness, having done all that work and just being more aware and conscious in terms of the decisions that I make in life, knowing that it wasn't serving me, and quite quickly being able to recognize that and saying, yeah, this isn't for me, I'm going to stop using alcohol again. So yeah, that's been a key part of the journey in terms of getting to, I suppose, where I'm at now too.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. It's so true. We go along thinking something is a support when actually it's hurting us. Similar to my journey with alcohol, I always thought of it as a friend, honestly, because it was such a fun social thing. I'd grown up, seeing fun parties with alcohol, my parents having a good time with a glass of wine, just kind of very casual use like that. And then I just was using it more and more. And just like half a bottle or a bottle of wine a night. And then I realized my body really feels like crap. And this was like a side of a huge realization because I was trying to recover from a severe pain disease and to figure out what on earth was going on with my body, why it was falling apart. And so part of that was I finally realized, you know what, if I stop drinking alcohol, that makes me feel better. Like alcohol adds so much inflammation and so much anxiety. And it's the same. I think I just stopped 2018 or 2019 because of that. And then I've had a glass here or there since then, but every time I do, anxiety, I can't sleep. It keeps me up all night, even just a sip. And also like my legs feel like lead the next day on my feet. And I'm just like, why would I do this to my body? It impacts me so hugely. You just realize like, it's not my friend. This is not supporting me. I love that phrase, not serving me in my journey. We
Yeah,
all
no,
want to
absolutely, and
know that.
well done. That's incredible for recognizing the impact that it was having and making choices around that, because I don't think it's easy to do that in a culture where actually alcohol is celebrated in a sense as well. And I know lots of people listening, will be able to use alcohol and not have a major effect on their life. But it is interesting that you say that about, the impact on our body too. Like, yeah, I had like aches and pains and things that I used to experience that I didn't know what it was about. But I don't now that I, stopped drinking, because I think we don't realize, I suppose, the deeper impact that it has on our bodies, minds, spirits, as well, until maybe you're not consuming that alcohol on a regular basis. So
Well, absolutely. It's so destructive, and we don't see this until we're away from it. But there's no reason, once you realize that you can actually wake up in the morning and feel good, and then you have a sip, even just a sip of something, and wake up and feel awful or don't sleep, or, like have anxiety running down your body, you just realize this is not serving me. It's part of that deep awakening process we all need to do from this box that culture puts us into. But anyhow, it's so wonderful to be free. And we just encourage anyone who is on that journey of finding freedom to just look into the habits that are not making you feel good. Now, that's one of like the challenges, but it feels so many magical things come into your life as you step away from that. And Vicki, that's what I'd love to ask you right now, is magical synchronicities that have come to you along your journey.
yeah, I think for me, I think when you are sort of living a more authentic life, in alignment with your flow, and you are radiating the energy that you then feel from that, whether that be, peace, joy. And I'm not saying we experience all of those more sort of positive feelings all of the time. But yeah, I think those synchronicities are then coming and sort of more naturally, don't they? So I'm really struggling to think of anything sort of specific, but I just feel when you're in flow, living your sort of best creative, authentic life, that the opportunities that are meant to be for you sort of are there. So for me, it's about the people that you meet, for example. So a bit like us having the opportunity to meet through, the wild swimming and the group that I facilitated, and really just connecting in that level, and then our onward journey of being able to sort of share yoga and then come into this podcast. So I suppose this podcast would have never happened if we never met, on the beach that day, in terms of the wild swimming journey. Another lovely example is the retreat that I hold a couple of times a year at Kelburn. Sort of was the suggestion of another lovely lady who I met through wild swimming. She sort of planted the seed of the idea. I had never considered that might be an option, that might be something that I was ready for. However, was really inspired by her beautiful idea and was able to take that forward to Kelburn. And then before we know it, it's blossomed into, a beautiful retreat that is attended by around 20 women each time, and lots of sort of beautiful healing work happens at that as well. I think even professionally, just in terms of the job that I'm in at the moment, actually came after a really sort of difficult toxic experience of working within a workplace where I wasn't appreciated, wasn't respected, had to deal with real challenging toxic relationships. And had to leave that job fairly quickly with no other job to go to, being really sort of anxious, worried about what life was going to look like. But it's led me to the job that I'm in at the moment, which is wholly satisfying and sort of meets all of my needs at the moment. And I suppose another example is meeting my partner actually as well. So we both met at a sound bath that I was facilitating. So I think, when you're just living in flow and you're where you're meant to be, you're just meeting the people that are meant to come across your path and be in your life as well. So yeah, I suppose that's a few of the examples maybe of how that synchronicity has just worked magically within my life.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I just love it. I have to put into another gorgeous synchronicity that came about through creativity and this journey of being in flow with Vicki. So we have a mutual friend, Kelsey Todd, who is an incredible painter. We sell her paintings here in Seahorse. She is a wild swimmer. And so Kelsey painted this beautiful, beautiful girl coming out of the ocean, pink hair streaming behind her. And she had this amazing resemblance to Vicki. Mentioned it coming to our shop. Of course, I noticed that Kelsey also has gorgeous long pink hair. So it was just this mermaid theme. We all felt so in flow. Just love this painting. So Vicki comes in to our bookshop one day and sees this painting and had to have it for her home. And that just made me so excited, because I get so excited about the magic of creativity and being in flow. And it just felt like one of those moments where everything comes together, right place, right time.
That was such a beautiful moment, and that painting is literally hanging in my living room right now. I'm looking at it right now. It's such a gorgeous painting. So yeah, I think Kelsey, whose work is amazing, she's such a gorgeous person too. Had posted it online, and lots of people had tagged me in it saying, "Is this you? You need to get this painting." And then knew that it was in your wonderful bookstore. So was happy to make a journey and come along. And yeah, the painting just had to come home with me as well. And also thanks to your wonderful bookstore, it's such a gorgeous place to be as well. So I would urge anyone, if they haven't visited yet and they are in the area, to get along and to come and visit you there.
Oh, thank you so much. I do feel like art, books, creativity, they just make magic happen. I feel that every day as people like yourself walk in and just have the most magical conversations. It's my favorite thing. And that's really like why I started this podcast, is the magic of creativity, the magic of these conversations. So you've told us so many wonderful things, Vicki. Could you just tell us about a time you met a challenge, a failure, or rejection, maybe in your creative career, and how you overcame it, and what did it teach you?
Yeah. So I think for me, a bit like just how I mentioned a bit earlier, like really working with probably a deep lack of self-esteem and confidence. So for a while I had this dream about being able to dive deeper into my practices, explore yoga, and maybe be able to share some of that with the world. However, I was working full time, as I say, quite a busy, stressful job, and was stuck in a place of fear about actually how do I step outside this box of this is who I am. I am Vicki, the social worker. I work full time. This is what I do. I've got my family, I've got my other commitments. I don't have time to do this. And I think something that was a big excuse for me. I don't have time to do this. But really it was fear-based. So for me, it was about stepping past that sort of comfort zone into the fear, to be able to try something new and share something that was important to me. And I think, you have to be really vulnerable to do that because you don't know how it's going to be received. And I think that's another thing, I suppose, is about, sharing from a place of authenticity because it means something to you rather than always worrying about how it is going to be received by other people. And I think, being an eternal people pleaser, actually, I had spent a lot of my life doing things to be accepted by or please other people. So to then change that around to share what I share because it's important to me and I know the value of it because it helped change my life. And I hope that it informs and changes other people's lives, but not sharing for the purpose of that was a real sort of initial challenge. So for me, there was a lot to work through around rejection. What if people don't come? What if people don't like what I produce? What if people don't like what I do? All those what ifs, all that comparison. So and so does that over there amazingly. What if I'm not going to meet up to that? Or what if that I'm not going to be good enough at that respect? So I think for me, creativity has been a real tool to work in all of those sort of levels of self-doubt and worry about rejection. And I think, it's a bit about those layers again. Like there's not one thing that's done that. It's been a collection of things. So for me, a key thing to that has been like writing, journaling. I journal most days. If I don't journal, if I get out the habit of journaling, I really feel that I'm in my head again. So for me, like journaling and how I've felt about all of those different challenges or sort of inner feelings or those narratives that you tell yourself, slowing those thoughts down with the use of sort of yoga, meditation, cold water therapy, but really getting to know myself. And these practices have been such a guide to get to know myself, who I am deep down, what I want to put out there in the world, like what sets my soul on fire, what my purpose is. And I think it's that creative process of getting to know yourself, getting behind the masks, the armor, that we are conditioned throughout life or put on throughout life to protect ourselves, which actually causes barriers. Getting behind all of that using creative means has helped me develop a confidence, feel, more comfortable in my own skin, feel that actually what I have to offer is valuable, no matter how that's received by other people. Because there'll be people in my circle that appreciate and value that, and there'll be people that it just doesn't align with, and that's okay too. But for me, that has been the journey. And a really powerful journey because when you're comfortable in that, you can just share from the heart without worrying about all of those sort of other aspects of things. I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes it still creeps in, but that's why we continuously go back to these wonderful practices that we have. And they're there as a thread throughout your life. It's not something that we do and tick and say it's done and that's us. We're never going to experience those things again. But having these practices that you weave into your life as much as you brush your teeth or shower, they become your routine, they become what you do and who you are. as a means to overcoming those sort of challenges that you might experience.
Oh, I love it. It's the incremental steps and like atomic habits that create that powerful change and just like give us resilience to get through life. And that I loved how you mentioned finding your purpose. Could you tell us more about your purpose and your big dream? Like, what would you love? You have so many creative things and experiences that you create. What would you love to create? What impact would you love to create?
Yeah, so the sort of yoga philosophy talks about our dharma. So our dharma in life is our purpose, and I truly believe we all have a purpose. Although sometimes we don't know what that is, and I think that's because we're so busy that sometimes we don't take the time to be playful, to explore the things that light us up. Of course, we've got other responsibilities in life as well that can make it hard to sort of do that. And again, that conditioning, we're almost conditioned to grow up to fulfill certain roles or jobs or tasks. And I think that can sort of steal our focus away from our true purpose if we aren't living that. And I think if you're living that, you either feel in alignment with what you're doing in life, or there's conflict. There's an inner conflict or an outer conflict that directs you to the fact that you're not. So for me, I think I've ended up in the career that I'm in, social work, as well as through the wellbeing practices that I share. All of it's around people. So for me, my purpose is people. My purpose is people. It's connecting, and it's sharing and guiding. For me, there's real strength and connection in how we connect with people. And I think that just starts with kindness. And that's sort of where my kind yoga came from. It's about, kindness should be at the heart of everything that we do and share. So to be kind, we need to be respectful, we need to be empathetic, we need to try and get alongside people and where they're at, and just be non-judgmental for where someone's at that point in time. So I think a lot of the things I do within my life are around people and connection, but also supporting people then to find their purpose, to slow down in a busy world, and be able just to sit with themselves in a magical and creative way. And I really love to do that through some of the workshops that I share, using oracle cards, meditation, the movement, yoga, sound, and just that thread of connection with each other, because then we realise we're not alone in that journey either. I think I don't have any major huge life goals actually, or big plans, other than just continue to try and live as authentically as I can and as much in flow as I can each day. So for me, it's like the small steps, the simpler things in life that sort of create that bigger experience of purpose and just feeling hopefully at peace and ease in what you do and what you share. Yeah, because for me, just those small steps sort of then lead us to where we're going to be, hopefully. So yeah, for me, it's to live in alignment with myself, but also to support, those beautiful souls that I come into contact with to be able to do the same. Because if we're all doing that collectively, then hopefully that makes for a better community for us all to be part of.
Oh, absolutely. What a beautiful dharma, like that life purpose to be kind and to spread that ripple of kindness around you, to encourage people to be kind to themselves, because when people are in alignment with themselves, they are going to be more empathetic, more kind to everyone around them. And couldn't we use more kindness in the world? I love that. It
And what
absolutely
it
makes the
truly
world a
means
better
as well, we say kind, but what does it actually mean? What does kindness look like? What does it mean? And it's like living, that kindness in alignment with your values, all of the time, consistently. Yeah, so that we can all feel more accepted and held by each other.
Like, what a beautiful, gorgeous vision for the world. And I hope that everyone listening just feels that magic and synchronicity and just feels held and loved, and that you can just remember to be kind to yourself and be kind to those around you today. Now, I would love to ask you one last question, Vicki. Well, two last questions actually, because I'm going to ask at the very end how people can find you. But right now, I would love to ask, what is your favorite piece of advice for anyone listening to this show? And maybe they're at the beginning of their journey, maybe they're farther along. We're all on this journey together, walking each other home. So, what would you like people to take away?
So probably what we've already said, learn how to be kind to yourself first and foremost. And that doesn't come easy, because I'm sure if we stopped to think about that inner voice, that inner narrative that we all have, that we're always beating ourselves up, um, probably most of that is not based on kindness. So for me, it's about, be kind to yourself. We are all doing the best we can with what we've got, and get to know yourself, like really get to know yourself. Find opportunities, creative outlets so that you can sit with yourself, like the light, the dark, the shadows. Really learn about how you've come to be who you are at this point in time in your life. Do you know what's led you to where you're at? Why do you think the way you think? So I suppose for me, it's about that aiming to live consciously, knowing who you are and why you make the decisions that you do. Because I think when you come from that conscious place, um, you then are more informed to make better decisions in your life. You will manifest the life that you want to be living. It will change the way that you interact, not only with yourself, but with others. Um, and it'll take you in that step towards living a more authentic life, which hopefully will lead to more peace, happiness, joy, fulfillment. Um, so I think that's the best gift we can give ourselves, is slowing down, allowing yourself the time to be creative, and just dive deep into getting to know yourself.
Oh, goodness. That is so, so beautiful, Vicki. Like, what a gift. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful energy and your wisdom with So in Flow today, and just for sharing your soul here. And thank you for these tidbits of wisdom. I'm just loving them. Now, for anyone who's listening to this, could you tell us how to find you?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me here. I've really enjoyed our little chat, and was a little nervous beforehand as well. And I think it's important to put that out there. Do you know that we all experience these different emotions and, get a little nervous? And actually, you've made me feel so at ease, and I've really enjoyed our chat. So thank you so much. So people can find me on my social media pages, on Facebook and Instagram. And you would just search my Kind Yoga and Wellbeing. And they're sort of public pages. So even if you don't have your own sort of account, you can still search me in there, and all my contact details are over at those pages.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Vicki. Wishing you every good thing.
Thank you.
Did this episode resonate with you? If your heart feels that pain of being rejected, and you would love to heal the rejection wound and feel accepted, celebrated, and belonging, join Beloved, a 3-week experience to heal the rejection wound forever. It includes a live workshop and group gatherings, a pop-up Facebook group, and a pre-recorded rapid transformational therapy session and subconscious transformation meditation to recode your neural pathways to feel the love surrounding you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for sharing your time and your energy, and for sharing your creativity with the world. I would love to give you an invitation to create the magic of flow in your life and work, because I know that the world is a better place when you create the visions on your heart. If you would love to focus and become immersed in creative flow, no matter what else is going on in your life, then hop on my website, soinflowwithmollymurray.com, and download 15 minutes to focus and flow for free. If you would love inspiration on your creative journey, join the So in Flow book club through my email list. Join us each month to explore creativity and spirituality. If you would love community and accountability on your creative journey, I would love to invite you to join the Luminaries Creative Collective, a community where you can take part in lush, inspiring creative gatherings. If you would love to become a thriving creative, I invite you to apply to become a luminary through the Luminaries Creative Collective course for thriving creatives. Experience the magic of flow in every part of your life. If you would love support along any step of your creative journey, then reach out to me about my lush one-on-one creative mentorship packages. This podcast is produced in collaboration with Seahorse Bookstore, the independent bookstore committed to awakening the imagination. Order your books and stream your audiobooks through Seahorse. I am so excited for you to create the impact you deserve and to truly thrive as a creative. Together, we are changing the world in wonderful ways. If this discussion piqued your interest, I hope you stay tuned for the next episode.